How would you feel if everyone in your family started to notice that you were sick?
My family started feeling like my mom started getting really concerned. Like she really thought something was wrong.
But you've been going to the doctor for over 3 years and they can't figure out exactly what is wrong.
You're supposed to be a specialist. You're supposed to be somebody that can point me in the wrong direction. So the fact that they were giving me wrong diagnoses, and I didn't realize it at the time, like the first couple, I was just like, that's what the doctor says it is. That's what it is. And
Right.
then come to find out, like, nope, it's not that one. Nope, it's not that one. So I stopped caring really about the name of the disease too. Um,
This is comedian Vaughn Michael with What's the Lesson podcast. Today I sit down with Gus Woodward, a 32-year-old banker out of Virginia. We talk about his journey of overcoming his sickness. Gus said it first started when he dropped out of high school. He noticed that he was becoming sick.
I had just graduated high school. I was taking a year off before going to TCC for college. And then I started going to TCC. And that's when all of a sudden I just started getting sick. At first, not thinking it's a big thing, just thought it was cold here and there like everybody else. But then I started getting sick on such a frequency that it was like every month, sometimes more than that. And the easiest way to describe it is a snowball effect. Like I would get your cold, but my cold was a whole different beast. It was way stronger. My symptoms would be way more extreme than that person. The way like my family started feeling, like my mom started getting really concerned. Like she really thought something was wrong. And sometimes that helped, sometimes it hurt. Like sometimes it made me, she was just kind of filling me with anxiety and fear too. But at the same time, it was just her mother's concern. And so she made sure, because at the time, like I'm under their insurance. Like my dad was in the Navy, so we still had the naval insurance going for me for a couple more years. So that, I was kind of relying on them as well throughout all of that. Thank God. I did it like much of anything. It
You went
wasn't
to a
until,
hospital?
no, urgent care probably.
Okay.
But when it became more frequent and started explaining that to multiple doctors and stuff like that, that's where they started getting freaked out, and started thinking like, hey, we need to get you tested for more serious things. And so I can't remember, what order it happened in, because honestly, like I said, it just became a jumble. I just felt like I was always in somebody's office filling out paperwork, sitting there, in that cold, uncomfortable room waiting.
So you kept going back and back, and then eventually they were like, "Oh, this is the issue." You keep coming back.
And that's what was frustrating, because it was like, you're supposed to be a specialist. You're supposed to be somebody that can point me in the wrong direction. So the fact that they were giving me wrong diagnoses, and I didn't realize it at the time, like the first couple, I was just like, that's what the doctor says it is. That's what it is. And then come to find out, like, nope, it's not that one. Nope, it's not that one. So I stopped caring really about the name of the disease too.
Do you
And
know some of the first ones they diagnosed? Like when you went to urgent care, what did they diagnose with you at first?
At first, like I said, so the very beginning, just like strep, like they tested all the normal stuff. But later on, once I started getting like the more legit, like crazy tests, they thought it was something called cat scratch fever, which I thought was a joke. I was like, "Are you talking about like the disco song? Like, what do you mean?" Um, and but for real though, I was just like, "This can't be my life right now."
Gus told me during this time he lost a lot of his friends.
And I mean, it sucked to get vilified by your friends. Like I remember one day I came home from one of the doctor visits and all my friends were chilling outside because my buddy lived across the street as well. All my friends are there. And I remember like hearing them like giggle and like whisper. And, I know that's always been a paranoia thing for me. Like, and a lot of human beings, like we're egotistical. We like to think people are talking about us, but I come to find out like one of my friends actually was talking about me and said that like I look like I'm dying and I have cancer and blah, 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 blah. And I just didn't understand why a friend would say that in that manner, especially somebody that's claiming to be like your best friend at the time.
Right.
So it was hurtful. And I mean, I did kind of lose a lot of friends throughout that period of time in my life because not many were willing to support you when you're in that low state. But there were
Why
a
do you think
couple.
that?
Um, because like at the time when I got sick, I had this group of friends that was always together. We always hung out.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, I mean, kind of in groups, honestly, like 2 by 3s, they would just kind of disappear over, the longer stretch of time. And only probably like 2 or 3 remained throughout. So that showed me like it was kind of cool because, I mean, it helped me. I've always been jaded. Like, I love people. So you're my friend. I'm a trusting dude. I believe in you. I pour a lot into relationships, and I don't ever really, I don't see as much as the bad in people. So when it does show, or when I have something that's like a filter for me, like it was kind of helpful, I guess, in the long run. Because were those people real, true friends in the, first place? Like, or was it just something that was fun and easy at the time? And then as soon as it became, oh man, this friendship is going to take some work, boom,
Right.
I'm gone. So that was helpful as well. But like I told you in the past, like the main thing is help with is just my drive to live. Like, because for a long period of that time, I was just like, fuck it, Lord, like if you're going to take me, like let's just get this over with. I'm sick of the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. And how long would you say the stretch was that you were going through it before the final time?
Probably like 3 or 4 years that I was sick all the time. Never knowing if it'll go away. But then I just it's kind of like you push it to the back of your mind and start dealing with it. Like we manage symptoms. Like if you get a headache, you're going to take headache medicine. So
right.
When my sickness would ramp up, I would try to do everything I needed to do. But most of the time when I go to doctors, they give me like antibiotics and steroids, stuff that's not healthy for your body in the long run. It's like trying to quick boost and kill that one specific bacteria or disease, or, and that it didn't feel like it was helping over the long run.
Gus started to see some light when he started working at a new job.
So when I started working at the Heritage down by the beach, Heritage Natural Market, I really started trying to make better decisions, healthier foods, because my whole life I had been a junk fooditarian. Like I didn't eat anything but like.
What's the Heritage Natural Market?
Natural Market. It's down to the beach off Laskin Road. It's basically like, it's like a local version of Whole Foods, or kind of like a mix between trying to think of what else I can compare it to, but basically like a fresh market where a lot of like organic and like local farmers actually contributed to. So lots of good stuff. And then there was a lot of weird stuff too. Like there's a bookstore and all kinds of hippie type of things. And so the crowd there was amazing because of that. Like even my coworkers, like I met so many unique individuals. And that helped a lot too. Like I just started being more positive about my sickness. And I don't know, that's kind of where I discovered writing too. I met a couple individuals that introduced me to their writing. Guy named Tony West and Joseph. He went by Joe Boo, but his name is Joe Collier, or Joseph Collier. And those two people basically just were really into hip hop. And, I've always been into hip hop. And Tony one day was just spitting. He was like saying all these rhymes. And I thought it was a freestyle. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I think he was like, nah, man, that was written. And he pulled out one of his notebooks. And then from then on, I kept these things around at all times. Like I had comp notebooks just everywhere all the time, filled them to the brim. And they became like such a source of therapy for me. And it was cool because it wasn't a lonely activity. I think with drawing, as I've always done that since I was 4 years old, it didn't help as much. Like it was still therapy, but it wasn't something where I was getting to communicate these feelings to other people. So the fact that it became a group activity right away, because I remember I even had one of these, I nicknamed the Cypher Sponge, and we used to pass it around the Heritage, where we'd have like ciphers, like conversations of rhymes instead of just like me sitting there writing by myself all the time. So I think like combination of all those different things, like it really just changed the game for me. Like
Gus said that he met a new doctor who was completely different from everyone else that he really liked.
yeah, she had and she just seemed like the most empathetic person. Like she actually cared when I go tell her stuff. She wasn't like a lot of the doctors I had seen were very cold. And she was never like that. She actually had real conversations with me. She actually told me. She was one of the first ones to be like, I don't know. Like, let me just start with that. No clue what you have. This is going to be a really intense one. But I'm going to get all of the people that I know on it, which is why I compared it to House, because she does have like a lot of friends that she had from medical school and things like that she kind of kept as a network. And so she ran it back to all of them, as well as her own test results and stuff like that. And that's where, I guess they were just searching through all these different medical books and stuff like that. And they found that one specific really strange disease. But, I don't even know if that was the correct one. It was just kind of like, that's kind of why the name to me, I think, helped with humor, because I was just like, does it even really matter at this point? Like, okay, cool. That's what it is. Is there a cure? No. All right. Well, there's no cure then. I just need to get over it. Like, I just need to stop thinking about it, because I think what happened before all of that began, I kind of wonder, looking back on my life, was I soul sick? Because, I'm a super spiritual person and everything, Vaughn. So like, I think everything in life a lot of times is our own fault.
Okay.
So I kind of wonder if I made myself sick because I wasn't ready for real life. Like I remember college, I took that year off that I was telling you about, was not trying to get any type of grown up real job or anything like that. Not to say that I didn't have some job at all times. Like I pretty much always had a job, but I didn't want to have to like go to that next level. Like, my dad was in the military. To me, that's next level, or get some type of like trade or craft and just live and do that for the rest of my life. I don't know. Like it was like that launching point from high school. I wasn't ready for it. And so I just shut down. And, back then I was really shy, didn't talk to anybody. So I don't think I really had any therapeutic let out for the most part. And other than my parents and, my few friends, but it wasn't like it is now, to where I can actually express myself and find ways to get things off my chest that are really heavy. So I kind of wonder, and looking back, I kind of still think like I made the problem. Like I made myself sick, soul sick, whatever you want to call it, because I read this book that talked about that. It said that like everything starts within your energy, starts within your soul, whatever you want to call it. Like if you go with science, they call it energy. If you go with like the spiritual, they call it your soul. Either way, it's uncharted territory. But what they say is like, it's kind of what ifs, because once again, it's uncharted territory. But they talk about if the soul were to be sick, if you really were sick there, it would first show in your emotions, because your emotions are the most connected to your energy, like your vibe. And so you're going to be really depressed all the time, for example, and you won't know why you're depressed, but you'll just know that you're depressed. And then from there, it'll go to, because now the emotional is already working into your mental. If you're still not getting the message, then your body's going to turn it into something physical. It's going to take that stress and turn it into like a physical form, whether it's a sore back or you get an illness. And so I think that always stuck with me after reading into all that. And I was just like, I think I did make myself soul sick. And the beauty in that is, if you were the one that created your own problem, then you are the solution. Like there is no other solution other than, a higher power, like whatever your communication is with that. But I've always believed that's kind of like something within. That's hence why it's called inquire within, inspire within. Like the God is within you. So stop looking for an external savior.
Right.
So that's kind of where my mindset changed at the end of the illness. Was like, I keep kind of like yelling at God, thinking that he's just going to send someone or send an angel or something to heal me. That's not going to happen. He's waiting for me to do the work and me to heal myself. So that's kind of like where the whole perspective changed.
So the doctor tells you about this. She says there's no cure to it. What was her recommendations at this point, or what was her suggestions?
Well, she was definitely on board with the fact that I was starting to eat healthier. She thought that would have a profound effect. And then, like I said, we had a real conversation. So I even got to talk to her about like thinking more positively. She actually was really into all of that. I think that's why she was my favorite doctor, because she was a little bit more toward what I've read Eastern medicine relates to, where they're actually like holistic. Like they're trying to see the whole picture. They're not just trying to see like, here are your symptoms, here's your, disorder, and here's how I'm going to fix it with medicine. She was more like, what are you doing to fix this? Like, what changes are you making, or how are you living differently to try to manage this? And so I got to tell her that, I'm a little bit more positive now when I'm sick. Like, I know that essentially I have to shut in, and I would try to make the best of that too, though. I would try to be more creative during those times. And then when it was time to like, finally, I would be healthy. I mean, to be honest, sometimes I was a little reckless, but it was like, hey, I'm alive in this moment, and I don't know if it's going to last that long or if it's even going to come again. So anytime that I was really healthy, I'd go out and just most of the time be in nature, which once again, I think that was healthy, because like most of my child life, I was inside playing video games probably 90% of the time. Like you couldn't get me to go outside unless like I'd play basketball, I'd play some sports and play with the friends and stuff, but it was like this much of the time versus most of the time I'm sitting in front of a screen.
Gotcha. So, out of all of this, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned? I feel like you might have already answered that, but
no, it's cool. I mean, it's still a good question, because ultimately I feel like the main thing I learned is we have to be our own solution. We have to be our own savior. Nobody is going to come along and save you. Now, that might happen in your life. Don't get me wrong. I love stories like that where someone just comes in and it's like fated and they're your mentor, or they're, your one love or whatever. But I just mean in the sense of like, your problems are your problems. Don't try to put them on other people. Don't try to put them on, your God, because ultimately that just makes it bigger and scarier. Like you need to try to humanize it as much as possible. You need to try to bring it down to earth and realize like, hey, this is something I can manage. This is something I can do. And I have infinite potential. I have infinite ability inside of me. So to be able to unlock that, I have to get through this. And so that was kind of like my guiding force, was just like, if I'm going to ever help anybody else, like I have to be able to help myself first, and I have to be able to fix whatever this is. So let me do it. And then I would just take that and run with it. Like I was always speaking affirmations constantly. Like that's what half of the writings ended up being, was just like stuff that I needed somebody else to tell me, but I didn't have somebody else. I needed to tell me these things. And so they all became like these really positive affirmations and motivations, but other people liked them too, because they didn't know what I was talking about specifically. They were like, hey, that's really, overwhelmingly positive. Can I get some more of that? And so it became like a fun thing to do at work even. And then it became a fun thing to do everywhere else.